So we're coming up to our last session for the evening, and it's my pleasure to invite them to the stage. They're going to have a discussion about managing continuous disruption with game-changing technologies, I presume like they did with Ella. Your moderator is Shivani Saini, who is the Global Digital and Tech Head for GSK Consumer Healthcare. And I'll have you sit on this end here while the rest of your panel sits through the rest of the seats available. I'd also like to invite Lawrence Ng, Regional Head of IT Southeast Asia at PSA Corporation Limited. Mark Lim, Managing Director, Digital Technology and Cybersecurity at Temasek. Jason Bay, Senior Director, Government Digital Services, at GovTech. Ivan Low, Chief Strategy Officer at Huawei International. And Kenneth Siow, Regional Director for Southeast Asia and GM for Singapore Tencent Cloud International. Would you please welcome our panel with a round of applause.
Hello, everyone. This is Shivani. I'm from GSK. You might know GSK a little bit, which they make Sensodyne and Panadol. So hope you use Sensodyne in the morning and you don't need a Panadol after this. But isn't it lovely to be the last panel? Yeah, when you're actually sitting between, the lovely drinks and the audience. Yes. But I hope we make this an exciting discussion for you. It's a very exciting topic of game-changing technologies. And we have some game changers here from the industry and who are our partners and who are also practitioners. So we'll have some question rounds for them and give them a big applause because they bring here great experience and expertise. So I'm going to start with Lawrence, who is from PSA. Lawrence, PSA has faced a lot of disruption in the last 20 months or so. How do you see the port operations transforming with the use of new technologies? And has the pandemic accelerated ongoing digital transformation?
Thanks, Shiv. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. In fact, I was always trying to tell Rama that I couldn't make it for this event. And every year is overseas, and this year is in Singapore, and this is the first year I made it. So I think on the topic of disruption, right? Definitely, I think you guys will have read about massive disruption, and definitely, in fact, the disruption is still happening right now. You have probably heard about a lot of disruptions in the supply chain, congestion in ports around the world, US, in China. In fact, I'm just wondering whether the upcoming 11/11 sale will make matters worse. So on hindsight, I think for PSA itself, I'm quite blessed that we had good leaders and good foresight. And we have actually embarked on a journey to disrupt ourselves even before this wave of disruptions brought about by COVID and the resultant effects. And what has guided us in terms of this disruptive journey is really mapping against our vision of what we want to achieve across 4 horizons. Horizon 1 being very much continuing to do what we do well. Our bread and butter in terms of best-in-class container operations. And then for Horizons 2 and 3, which are the mid and the longer-term goals, truly elevating ourselves, not just into the container space, but going into laying the foundation for cargo solutions, and also trying to see how we can become a global supply chain orchestrator. And of course, the last horizon, the top of everybody's mind today, being responsible environmentally. So hopefully we'll get our act together. And so I think we see technology as really a key enabler and integral role of part of all these disruptions. Let me just give some very broad examples and how we have gone about the use of this and what we foresee these technologies will bring to the table. So much topic, being the last session, everybody will have been bored to hear about AI, data and stuff, so please bear with me. So in the area of data and AI, I think we have been really sitting on a gold mine. The journey of discovery for us in terms of this disruption for us have led us to be able to leverage a lot on the data that we used to have. We are already collecting. and truly be able to channel all these insights into making better decisions. How do you predict when a machine is going to fail so that you can actually manage the uptime and continue to keep service levels high? How do you provide more insights that can translate into new business opportunities? What we are seeing today, in fact, we are actually transcending not just these basic capabilities in terms of descriptive to predictive, but going into how do we then encourage people to share data across the ecosystem. Because I think we realize that in order for everybody to be successful, there needs to be truly a better culture and environment of trust where people can freely share their data across so that we can actually become better as a community. So that's one example where I think technology will make a difference. Another one which I guess some of you will read about is that we were one of the earlier adopters of 5G. We have been going about the 5G trials in our container terminal operations in Pasir Panjang for easily the past 18 months. For us, I think we don't see 5G as just another communication media, but truly with the capabilities of 5G, what it can bring in terms of enabling new business processes, new ways of doing things. And as we are uncovering more and more features of 5G, we realize that there's actually a lot more that we can do. We are only really scraping the tip of the iceberg now. And when the standards are mature, I think coupled with a very close collaboration from like-minded industry stakeholders, we will be able to uncover more value and in fact go beyond where traditional boundaries are and try to harness the capabilities of being able to do edge computing. I think that will really bring about even more interesting use cases that we can look forward. So I think in summary, definitely technology has disrupted us. And I would think that truly it has brought about very positive effects. And where we foresee the future of port operations will be is that it will make us even more efficient. It will become more efficient in terms of what we are doing. But beyond port operations itself, I think it really opens the door for collaboration with the bigger ecosystem. And I think we see ourselves as hopefully being able to be a champion to bring about change in the logistics industry so that we can permit our value beyond just the port operations. Now, has the pandemic affected us? Of course. I mean, again, sounding very cliche, I think the previous presenter also definitely it has accelerated the pace of digitalization. So I think when I look back, I think it has affected us in a positive way. We had such a hard time. I had such a hard time trying to convince people to go to the cloud. When the pandemic hit us, it was a no-brainer. And but the downside of it is that I think it has also taught us to be a bit more selective in terms of where we are going to place our bets, so that we can really gun for value that brings about the agility that we need, as well as being able to incorporate resilience at the same time. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. That was really insightful to see how your organization is actually adopting these technologies for disruption. My next question is for Mark from Temasek. Mark, can you share us how technologies like AI, ML could be game-changing for the investment teams at Temasek?
So maybe I can start by saying that I think Temasek in itself is an organization that really believes that whenever there's a crisis, there's always an opportunity or even opportunities. And that's what I would say this crisis has done to us, right? As much as we were all affected, our life was affected, we actually realized that this is an opportunity for us to really go out there and look at how all this new technology can really change the entire world, the ecosystem, and the communities. So actually, if you look at what we have done, is that we have been seeding a lot of investment to date in many different companies that are looking at how they can transform themselves. So we do look at traditional businesses in supply chain and so on and so forth, and how they are leveraging on AI, ML to change their business model. And we are there to actually work with them. So we believe that we are not just a capital provider, but we are being able to be a catalytic capital provider. So we are working with them very closely to understand how they can use this new capital to actually drive their own transformation. At the same time, we also started to look at new companies in the area of fintech, food tech, in sustainability, in even healthcare, pharmaceutical, and actually, again, working with them to actually leverage all this AI, ML, and all this digitalization technology to actually transform their business. And I must say that these ventures that we have put in place have really given us great returns. So we can see that actually this digitalization is not just a nice to have thing, leveraging AI, ML is not just, it's a trend things to do, it's just trendy to do it, and you can tell people that, I'm doing this kind of thing, my company is doing this. Or to some company that there are laggers that don't even want to look at this kind of transformation. And those who does that, you can see that the growth and the returns are actually quite tremendous. So this is one of the areas that we really put a lot of effort in. So, and on top of that, of course, internally, we are also transforming ourselves. Me and my team, we are an internal team that actually work a lot on digitalization. We leverage a lot on AI, ML to actually build a lot of internal products to help our investment team do a better job. So ingesting data into our data lake, and then both internal and external data, and they are all very different challenges. So we're able to bring in all our internal data and bring out external data as well, data sources that we buy from different data provider. And with this, we are able to create a bigger picture, a more holistic picture and new insights for our investment team to be able to go out there and make better decisions. So investment is all about data. In fact, it is a data business, right? Whoever have the more advanced information and insights actually make the better decision. And in terms of whether you want to invest or divest. So this is our core business. So we have always been using it. By having AI, ML, and all this new technology that is at our hand, and having the new way of working, the more agile way of working, collaborating with our business teams, our investment teams, to really understand what are the problems they're trying to solve and be able to, in a more agile way, develop those insights with them, have actually allowed us to be able to go to market faster, be able to deploy our capital and more accurately and faster as well. So actually, this is a disruption, but I would say that, it is an opportunity, and those who really believe and can see the vision, is actually a great opportunity for us to really leverage on this. And you don't have to think about it being very expensive. So, digitalization, digital transformation must cost a lot of money. And you don't have to think that way. You can always think that we do it agile, we start small, and we test out the way things are being done, and use that to actually scale up later. Yeah. So today also, I'm actually very happy to be here because I'm very proud of quite a number of our portfolio companies like PSA. We learn a lot from them, what to do, because they are always the cutting edge, and then we go and learn. DBS also. DBS, I heard there's a lot of conversation about DBS this morning, so I'm very proud of DBS. Congratulations. And again, we learned a lot from DBS. We're proud of a lot of our portfolio company who are so advanced in adopting all this technology and changing the way they do their business. And I'm glad that I'm able to learn from them and be able to come and share a little bit today here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'll come back to you on examples of agile and how you're bringing that to your teams. But my next question is for Jason. Jason is from GovTech. Jason, the work you guys have done around contact tracing has been exceptional. So can you tell us what were the key technologies that GovTech had to rely on to effectively build contact tracing?
Okay, thanks for the question, and good to be here. I think this must be the first time I'm doing a conference in person for quite a number of months now. The question you ask is about technology, but I think before that, actually, it's about talent. And Mark, you were talking about portfolio companies. I don't know how many people here know Mark is actually my predecessor in this current role. So I don't know if GovTech, at least my team in GovTech, would be considered one of your portfolio companies. Maybe. Anyway, besides technology, we start with the talent first and the human factors, right? It's the team that has been built up. It's the realization within government, within GovTech, that over the last decade or so, if you are Facebook, you would never outsource the newsfeed algorithm to Google, no matter how good Google's AI algorithms are, right? There are things in government, there are things that GovTech is responsible for. We can't do everything ourselves, but I think there was a realization that for fast-moving areas of policy, in this particular case, the pandemic, some of these capabilities, some of these solutions, we need to have some ability to develop them in-house. So I think you start from that as the first point. Technologies, you can talk about our use of cloud. You can talk about the technology stack, the internal technology stack that we're trying to develop so that we don't end up rebuilding the same tools over and over again. It's about putting together pieces in a more modular fashion. But I think specifically for contact tracing, we realized that actually my team is largely a software engineering team. But in order to make the contact tracing solutions work, we've had to bring in, we've had to call on a whole village of expertise. So whether it's from IMDA, A-Star, NRF, around, access to equipment such as large anechoic test chambers, equipment manufacturers, the handset manufacturers, they've all been very generous in giving us devices and loaning us devices that we can use. All of that, at the end of the day, yes, that's tech, but it's also founded on the human connections, the informal networks and formal networks that we have to bring people together. And I think that can't be underestimated, right? Oh, sorry, can't be overestimated, the impact of that. I think one of the other things that I think is super important here, and not really technology again, so I'm not really answering your question, I realize, because every time I deflect over to something else. But Mark, you talked about agility, and we are learning so many things in this pandemic, right? We started with saying that it's droplet-based transmission, it's not worthy about a mask. Then it became, aerosol transmission, fomite transmission, better keep the mask on. The number of policy changes, in terms of even most recently, the extension by 1 month of the dining-in restrictions, those create churn. And I trouble my team to do a lot of constant redevelopment and pivoting, but the ability to pivot, I think, is again a function of the agility that we've built into the system, the way we've been able to run the product. And I think that more than anything else would be the critical secret sauce or ingredients of success. Maybe I'll just stop here and we can come back later.
Thank you so much, Jason. Let's move to our providers, to Huawei. Ivan, I think there's a huge respect we have for Huawei, who has accelerated digital transformation for many companies. So the question I have for you is, what do you think were the game-changing technologies in the past? And what do you think would be the game-changing technologies in the future?
Okay, first of all, I think in my definition of game-changing technology, it's usually referring to technology that in the past we used to think that is impossible, but this game-changing technology actually make it possible, right? And also on the fact that this game-changing technology can actually make one of the market leader collapse, and it can also cause CIO to lose the job. So maybe I just share one example. This is regarding to chess. Myself, I'm a chess player in the past. So if you look at many years ago, for many decades, a lot of the researchers, they are trying to find a way for the machines or computer to beat the humans in chess, right? So in 1997, when IBM released the first HPC machine called the Deep Blue, that actually managed to beat the human champion by leveraging on the very complicated algorithm and supercomputer that can compute more than 200 millions of steps per second, right? So that was the first achievement by the research. But after that, they're trying to go for the next challenge. The next challenge is to go after the even more difficult game. We call the board game Go. The black and the white stone. In Chinese we call it Weiqi. But that is even more challenging. Why? Because just to give you a bit of more statistic, chess game, basically, the probability is 10 to the power of 123. But for the Go game, the possibility is 10 to the power of 360. So in this case, for more than 10 years, they have not been able to achieve a solutions by leveraging on algorithm and supercomputer. But in 2015, a solution was found with the emerging of AI. So the different thing that they did they developed software called the AlphaGo, okay, which is leveraging on machine learning. Rather than working on algorithm, they leverage on machine learning by giving extensive training, playing millions of times with computer, with players, so that these machines can actually compute the best winning percentage. So this is an example of how technology has changed from in the old days of the traditional algorithm into a machine learning. You don't need to base on the algorithm anymore, right? So this machine learning has made a lot of things now possible. Of course, in recent years or even recently, we also seen a lot more game-changing technology. For example, today the firemen, they are using machines and drones to put out the fire. In a difficult environment like the smart mining as well as the ports, in the past, the workers used to work in a very hard and dangerous environment. Today, they can actually enjoy themselves in the aircon room when, one person can control 3 to 4 cranes or trucks, and the things can run overnight. So these are some examples of game-changing technology, right? So in the future, humanity is set to enter into the intelligent world for the next 3 decades at least, right? Everything will be based on sensing, will be based on connected and intelligent. The physical world will all be connected by network, whereby the 5G, the broadband, the satellite internet will basically connect everything from the cities to the forests or even the space, right? So, and digital twins will be everywhere. In fact, today, if you look at the news, Singapore just announced that they're going to launch a digital twins for the nation power grid based on to manage all the electricity. So, these are all the latest technology that we're expecting. In fact, recently, Huawei just launched the Intelligent World 2030 reports. This report actually examines over the next 3 decades, over the next 10 years, what are the technologies that will give opportunity to every person, home, and organizations. They actually mentioned 4 points. The first point is about the communication network 2030. The future network will not just connect billions of people. It will connect hundreds of billions of things, right? So, the network, the connection will go beyond just the ground, into the air, into the space. It will basically help humans to achieve, their multi-dimensional connectivity requirement. Secondly, is the computing power 2030. By 2030, yottabytes of data will be generated every year. And the computing energy efficiency will increase by 100-fold. This is where AI will leverage on digital technologies to make the world more intelligent and also to help to achieve the true carbon neutrality. The third point that we talk about is the digital power 2030. If you look at the environment today, we are seeing many crises. The bushfire continue to burn for months. The temperature at the north and the south poles continue to increase, right? So all these issues actually raise the alert to the humans where we need to reassess our relationship with the environment. So we believe that ICT technology can actually help to manage all the environment change and also to protect the nature. Then last but not least, we talk about the intelligent automotive solution 2030. We believe that, with the cross-industry collaboration, we can actually speed up the ICT integration into the intelligent automotive solutions. So basically, we are able to make every vehicle even more intelligent. So we estimate that the global digital economy will grow faster than the average global GDP, and this market will be worth more than $23 trillion by 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivan. This was a fantastic view of the future, the challenges we have, and also the possibilities. Thanks a lot. Kenneth, coming to you with Tencent Cloud. Tencent has been at the root of a lot of gaming, e-commerce, media, and I know you guys are making a shift from being in the consumer area, coming to the enterprise area. The question I have for you is, while organizations strive to adopt new technologies, how can they ensure that there is a strong tech foundation on the cloud which helps them support the transformation?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, so as you rightly pointed out, Tencent is one of the largest, in fact, it's the largest Asian company in the world. People don't really know about this because we oftentimes are seen to be a brand of brands, right? So, for example, who has WeChat installed on their phone? Can I just have a raise of hand? Yeah, a lot of you have WeChat. So we're the largest instant messaging provider in the world. We are the largest gaming company in the world. We are the largest, one of the world's largest video provider, Tencent Video, QQ. In fact, all of these products, or in fact, many of the products, they have monthly active users that are not just millions. We're talking about hundreds of millions of users. So in the case of WeChat, for example, we have 1.25 monthly active user, right? And that's like huge, right? That's almost the entire population of China. China is pretty much 1.4 billion people, and pretty much we're talking about almost 85 to 90% of folks in China that are using the WeChat platform. And in Southeast Asia, we're looking roughly about 40 to 50 million monthly active users. So the key kind of experience that we've kind of acquired over the last 2 decades is building useful application that serves hundreds of millions of users and the ability to scale in a secure fashion. Like look, when was the last time you have heard of people hacking into WeChat? No, it's not happened before, or at least it's not happened in recent times. And the reason is because we were able to build some of these strong applications that are governed and protected by a very strong security foundation. And we do take security extremely seriously. So back to your question, what do enterprise need to think about? Well, a couple of things, right? We've talked a lot about data management, because we're all living in the world of data now. So how do you make sure that you're managing the data side of the house? Not just in terms of protecting data, but how do you harness the power of data? Secondly, security. We talk a lot about security. Just now we had the full session on security. How do you make sure that you're building applications for your organization that are underpinned by the best of breeds from a security standard? And thirdly, I would say, right, and this is speaking more from an IT professional standpoint, not just putting my hat as a Tencent employee, but it's really thinking about the fact that if you're thinking about building application that scales, that allows you to be agile, so that for example, if you're in retail, and you want your application to be able to scale very quickly and be able to scale down during sort of off-peak time and be able to scale up very quickly. So agility to scale, the ability to the agileness of your application, the scalability of your application, and underpinned by stronger security is extremely important. So what Tencent has been able to bring to the market would be something called containerization. Some of you may have dealt with that already. It's not a new word in the market, but there's not yet a lot of companies that started on this journey. So basically, you're looking at how do you containerize a set of infrastructure, a set of operating system, a set of business use case, and you package it into a container, and you take that into the enterprise world and then be able to scale that. And because Tencent has been involved in so many different types of business, if you look at our business, right, we're in e-commerce, for example. I mean, if you look at Pinduoduo, or if you look at even in Singapore, I mean, it's public news. We are one of the largest investor of Shopee, for example. I mean, if you look at, for example, in ride sharing, right, we are a major investor in Didi Chuxing, which is the equivalent of Grab here. If you look at the music streaming services, we own Joox, for example, and iFlix in Malaysia. I mean, I can go on and on, but my point is that if you look at the business use cases and you're trying to think about your application that needs to scale to millions or hundreds of millions of people, then don't just think about infrastructure in silo. You need to think about what is your platform play, right? Which is where Tencent Cloud really differentiates ourselves, because we are taking our platform experience and we're taking that as a bundle. We're taking that as a suite of products that serves the needs of our customers based on the use case that they need. So for example, right, if you're in e-commerce again, and this is a classic one because of the pandemic. Now, if you're trying to build the next generation of your live commerce platform, right? Now, instead of going to different vendors and trying to build a complex video platform, we now offer it almost like a buffet menu. We give you a suite, and you can build that in hours, if not days, if not hours, right? So again, kind of quickening the experience and building useful application that allows you to scale, underpinned by the strongest security.
Thanks, Kenneth. I think that's great advice for practitioners like myself. I'll move back to Lawrence. Lawrence, you've got a very complex and distributed OT environment. I understand 50 ports around the globe. So is this a major consideration while you evaluate new technologies?
Thanks for the question. Definitely. I mean, if you imagine the scenario where we have a majority concentration of businesses that are rather similar around different ports in the world, you can clearly see that when you are leveraging on technology to try to bring about improvements to the business, there is so much opportunity that you can actually exploit by having the best practices being cloned in different parts of the world. But having said that, right, I think the stark recognition is that although we do have many points of presence in the world, they all differ in terms of maturity, differ in terms of their scale, and even down to the business model itself, because there could be different arrangements, commercial arrangements. Some we operate in full, some we have a partnership with another customer, another partner to build and manage the port. Hence, I think when we source for technology, particularly this is only one dimension. How do we source for good technology that is able to make a difference in this OT space? What we have in place in PSA is we are guided by what we term as a PSA technology roadmap, technology scanning roadmap, where we are organized along 5 pillars. So the first pillar, which is very much in the OT space, is in the area of port technology. And this will be where we look for suitable technologies and solutions that can drive differences in things like smart engineering, machine-augmented workforces, orchestrating of the operations, which I briefly mentioned earlier, and a few others. Basically, how do we do what we do better through the use of technology? But this is not the only consideration when we look for technology, because that will be very one-dimensional. And in order for us to realize our vision of being able to transform towards not just as known as a terminal operator, we also have pillars in enterprise tech, data. I mean, today you can't not have something about data, how you're going to manage data, share data, collaborate data. And of course, 2 other pillars in the form of cargo solutions, as well as one more in the area of marine tech. This basically provides an overarching view where we then have both a centralized, coordinated approach towards technology, but at the same time, the exploration is done on a decentralized manner. That way, we basically allow the different entities to freely seek out, but giving them a framework to know that, look, at the end of the day, whatever you do, let's be guided by these areas of innovation, so that we don't run afoul of finding different things that are not so-called relevant to the business. And I think it's a very interesting age that we live in. In the past, we always have the scenario where we don't have a technology solution to the problem. Today, I think it's the other way around. There are so many technologies out there. It's about really finding the technology that works best, that is going to make a difference to your solution. And don't just chase technology for the sake of technology's sake. And that's also the reason why I think, comparatively speaking, we have been rather slow to come on board with a lot of these new cutting-edge technologies, because we haven't really found the value in leveraging on them yet. Yeah, so I think that will be how I see the situation. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think this has been a recurrent theme since morning, where we're saying, don't figure out your problem first and then look at the technology, solve for it. Because there are many technologies which could be fitting, but which one's really best for solving your problem is something which is a challenge for us. Mark, you had talked about agile and how your teams are adopting agile. With this burst of need of digital services, how do your teams adopt agile ways of working?
Right. Before I answer that, maybe I just say that number one, I agree with Lawrence, right? You don't just implement technology for the sake of implementing it. You got to really have a business value that solves a real pain point. And of course, with Jason, I'm very proud of my successor who took over me from GovTech. Doing a great job, man. Still pushing the forefront of doing things in the digital way. I want to say that I also agree with Jason on this form of, there are some things you really want to build. Some things are just capabilities that you want to build in-house, man. You don't want to just buy from someone or outsource. You can buy the underlying technology services, the cloud-native services, whatever, but you really want to have that capability, because these are competitive advantage, right? So this will lead me to what I'm trying to share. So in our organization, we are very clear. There's something we don't want to even waste our time building it, man. We just buy off the shelf and just get it done with. But there are certain things that's very competitive advantages for us, right? They are secret sauce, right? And this is where my team comes in, right? My team work very closely with my businesses to really understand what is that important strategic value that we want to build in-house capabilities, we call it, right? So then, but to do that, right, actually you need to do it in an agile approach, because the market is moving very fast, right? This is a very volatile world, right? Very uncertain world, full of ambiguity. You really cannot tell the business, oh, you must tell me exactly what you want, And I'll take 3 years before I give you a system. It's too late, man. The war is over, right? So the way we do is really work with them like one single team, right? So the agile is all about culture first. The culture is one team. There's no such thing as I'm tech, you're business, or you're from the data. Look, it's one product team. Let's work together. You all bring your own special expertise to the table, but we're one team, right? And that culture of one team really helps us to really be able to build things fast. Then the second part is actually, in fact, there was a question talking about infra, right? So you really want to have a common platform that is secure, that's well built, and then your product team, right, do not worry about the infrastructure. They don't worry about whether what they build can go to production or not. Can it go live? Can it be hosting real data, right? Because the underlying platform that we allow them to build on is already set up properly. And it's set up with all the security measure in place and so on and so forth. So I always tell my development team, I say, please don't think negatively of the cybersecurity folks. And the cybersecurity folks don't think badly of the digital guys. Sometimes people put them into enemies, right? It's like the digital guys is always saying that, wow, the cybersecurity guys are always stopping us from going faster, right? And then the cyber guys say, you digital technology guys, all cowboy, right? You all take so much risk and go out there. Actually, digital and cyber are two legs on one body, If you want to do more digital, you got to make sure that you have security in place. Right? And if you want things to be secure, you need to make sure that the digital guys are also in place. Right? And if you can work that culture, build that culture right, actually the agility doesn't equate to cowboy town. And so I'm quite tired when people tell me, when people talk about agile, they think, you guys are all super shift left one, right? You all go extreme, you all just build whatever you want, you go to market fast, you want to focus on innovation, you don't worry about security. It's completely not true. In fact, agile, if you ask me, the heart of agile is to really build things fast and flexible, but very securely. So in my organization, I happen to be asked to head up the cybersecurity as well. So I thought it was a golden opportunity for me to build them as one team, right? So I always tell them, please guys, work together as one. Guys and gals, work together as one. You're not enemies, And after a while, they realize they start to see the importance of working together as two legs on one body. And as you do that, from walking, you'll start running and you become a flywheel. And that's how you really be able to accelerate without taking all the unnecessary risks. So it's very well risk managed, but it's, at the same time, you don't just say, okay, everything cannot do, right? Let's just lock everything up, go back to caveman days, right? You can't do that, right? Because the world is really moving towards this direction. So it's the importance of that balance. Yeah, I hope that answering your question.
Surely does. Thank you. Thanks. We have very little time, so I want snappy, rapid-fire questions now. So next one, Jason's for you. We did a little bit of research on you, and we heard that you've written an article on human in the loop. Tell us more about that, and how does that, bring human experts into the digital experience?
So I think the article was in relation to something I said after Google and Apple announced their exposure notification protocol. The point I was trying to make there is that when we are looking at a new technology, we have to acknowledge that there's a limitation in that technology. And when you look at contact tracing, human contact tracing, that's been around for many years. When Trace Together first started, we were looking at a very low catchment in terms of the number of person-to-person interactions. If Mark isn't carrying the app, then I'm not going to pick him up anyway. So I think it's important to realize the limitations of the technology and not oversell them. Ultimately, I would say, I see a lot of comments. I mean, I've looked at the Pigeonhole. I see comments in the morning about, digital transformation, change management. So let me try and use my answer here to relate to some of those topics. When we started Trace Together and when we were talking to the MOH contact tracing teams, they were worried that we would generate too much data for them. So you can always calibrate, right? In terms of the proximity, in terms of the duration. Do I want to capture everybody here on this panel or only Mark and Ivan? Right? That is a dial that I can change. And if my interest was purely to demonstrate that this is a technology that has value, I might turn the dial to be super sensitive and say, look, I can generate so much data. But I think it's important to work with your business stakeholders. And I think Mark's point about us being on one team is important. Because we saw ourselves as one team, it wasn't about showing up the technology, it was about helping. And what that meant is in the first few months of Trace Together, we actually dialed back the sensitivity dramatically to generate very few reports, but everyone that's generated is almost a surefire case. Then when you build the trust, right, then you can start to change the dial in the other direction. And the point down here is this. This is possible because you have the humans in the loop first, and then after a while, the humans are confident enough, and then you can have the humans over the loop, right? When you think about transformation in organizations, digital transformation, it is not fundamentally about technology. It is primarily about the human factors. When you talk about human transformation, a lot of the reasons why people don't change their behaviors is because of this idea of learning anxiety. Right? I've said this in a couple of other forums, but if you Google Edgar Schein, and that's S-C-H-E-I-N, this guy's a psychologist, organizational behavioral theorist. And basically, he says that, humans only change their behavior when their survival anxiety, that means the sense that if I don't change, my lunch will get eaten. That has to exceed their learning anxiety, which is the sense that if I change, I have to unlearn what I'm good at and learn something new. That's very uncomfortable for people. It's not so easy unless something like COVID-19 comes around for you to raise survival anxiety, but you can help to lower the learning anxiety by making it safer, by making smaller incremental steps. And I think that's a large part of what Agile does. And it's a large part of this journey of building trust with our users. Maybe I'll just stop there.
Thank you so much. So maybe in 45 seconds for Huawei, what are the best ways you've seen customers leverage your cloud?
Okay, I'll just keep it short, right? You see, cloud is definitely one of the solutions that most customer is looking at to go and grow intelligence. So Huawei Cloud keep innovating to make the cutting-edge technology more affordable and available for the customers. So in the past, most of customer leverage on Huawei Cloud on those development and test, backup and DR environment. But in the recent months or years, we have seen that customers start to leverage on Huawei Cloud to communicate and collaborate with the business overseas, especially in China. So some of the examples are key customers that leverage on Huawei Cloud for video streaming as well as for AI video analytics. So as you can see, the main difference between Huawei Cloud and I guess the rest of the player is that, while many of the cloud providers actually fundamentally started from the B2C business, Huawei actually built our cloud based on our 30 over years of B2B extensive experience, as well as the best practice through all this digital transformation. So, currently we are working with a lot of our customers and partners, and we are implementing and doing research in more than 300 AI projects over 10 industries. I guess one of the strengths that Huawei has is the ability to solve current and the future problems, leveraging on the AI technology and the concept, right? So Huawei also provides the most comprehensive suite of AI as a service kind of offering, filled with AI solutions and applications coming from China and many other parts of the world. Right, so I guess this is one of the key differentiators that we are seeing, and more customers is actually moving a lot more of the mission-critical application into Huawei Cloud. Thank you.
Thank you. So for you, Kenneth, what's the best way your customers are leveraging a Tencent Cloud for open innovation?
Okay, in terms of open innovation, I think our DNA is quite different from Huawei. We actually started from a B2C environment. So back to what I mentioned just now, because we have more than 2 decades of experience in building useful application that serves hundreds of millions of users, and especially in the entertainment space, right? Media, gaming, entertainment. The big question now is how do we take that and help our customers to take that into the enterprise world? So some examples would be how do we gamify the education sector so that the students, instead of just looking at very boring static video, how can they learn along gaming and a gaming experience within a video platform? If you go shopping, right, instead of watching a person explaining a product, how do you make it more fun so that the whole live commerce experience is full of interactions, is full of sort of bi-directional interactions where you can actually say, okay, I praise the product, I put a sticker, and the presenter can also do something that's fun, right? So the whole, I would say, opportunity for every company that is thinking about how do we get into this sort of post-pandemic, into the endemic world where we're very likely going to have to live with hybrid tools, both online and also on-site. So in the online world, how do you take some of these best practices in terms of the fun element, as well as the video experience of Tencent having served hundreds of millions of users, for example? How do we leverage that technology and the infrastructure to then bring that into the enterprise world and into your customer base?
Thank you so much, the panelists today, for this thought-provoking and interesting and a learning session. Thank you very much.